Welcome to the virtual opening for our new exhibitions at Pomo Arts. I'm Janice Cotter, the gallery manager. Before we start, I would like to express gratitude to Pomo Arts Board of Directors, as well as say how thankful we are for our longtime supporters, the City of Port Moody, the Province of British Columbia for their support through the Community Gaming Program, as well as the Government of Canada for their support through the Canada Summer Jobs Program. As well, we have Peller Estates and our 2021 gallery sponsor, Edgar Developments. Pomo Arts continues to do virtual events along with hybrid exhibitions so that you can enjoy artwork by visiting the gallery in person or in the comfort of your home with a virtual visit to the artist's exhibition page on Pomo Arts website. Each show has a digital gallery that you can click on and then scroll through to see the artwork photos and artwork details, as well as learn about the artists. You can also support our artists by letting people know about their exhibitions or purchasing their artwork in person or on the phone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm really excited to have these 3 new exhibitions opening in the gallery, and they'll run until September 16th. Pomo Arts Gallery is open daily, except for the statutory holiday, Labor Day on September 6th. Tonight, you'll meet the artists, Cerisa Fitzjames, David Carey, Michelle LeBlanc, and Tajiana Mirkov-Popovicki. Then we'll show a video of Tajiana's artist talk, and afterwards we'll have time for a discussion and to answer any questions that you've posted on Facebook. Right now, I'm going to start with Cerisa Fitzjames. Cerisa has spent almost a year at Pomo Arts as the 2020-2021 ceramic artist in residence. The exhibition planning started last October, and it's wonderful to see Cerisa's vision come to life. Cerisa, you can unmute now. Thank you for joining us, and you're actually in your gallery space tonight. You must be happy to have the work for your exhibition. We can ask for more completed and installed. Could you give us a bit of a teaser about your show and your upcoming artist talk?
Yeah, this is the teaser. So I guess in my residency, I focused mostly on ceramic sculpture, more than just functional pieces, although I have a few. And it was nice because I've never actually had a studio to myself for that amount of time. So I got to work with things that I haven't worked with before, like including colored clay and decal transfers and underglaze transfers. So it's all new things that I'm experimenting with. Yeah, is that enough for
Oh, that's wonderful. You're in the space, and Cerisa's artist talk will stream live to Facebook at 7:15 next Thursday, August 26th. And it's nice, Cerisa brought their family in to see the exhibition this evening. So it's really nice they were able to join you here. Thanks so much, Cerisa. Next, we have Gnomes of Port Moody, and it is a collaborative creation between photographer David Carey and illustrator Michelle LeBlanc. David is joining us from his home in Port Moody, and Michelle from his home in Winnipeg. Thank you so much, Michelle. I know it's a bit later there. So David, Michelle, please tell us a bit about your show and your artist talk and when it'll happen.
Just to, as an introduction, so we're both from Winnipeg, and I've known Michelle a long time. And one of the things I always wanted to do was collaborate on an artistic project with Michelle, and it kind of never worked out in Winnipeg. But now that I moved to Port Moody 9 years ago, it has worked out very well. Just to set the stage, a couple of years ago, the gnomes that live in the forests around Port Moody became very bored, and they saw all the exciting growth in the city of Port Moody and the activities and the community events. And they really wanted to move out of the forest into the urban environment and experience these things. And the representative appeared before the Gnome Council and to get permission to do this. And the Gnome Council agreed to this. This would be fine, but under one condition, that once a month the gnomes had to help out in the community and do some volunteer work. So that was part of the stipulation. So Michelle and I documented this transition from the forest to urban life with its fun activities and responsibilities. And I took the background photos around Port Moody, and Michelle drew the gnomes. Being totally a non-artist, that's why I went into photography, because I can't draw for beans. So I wasn't able to draw the gnomes. So Michelle generously offered to do that part of the project. So Michelle, if you want to say something about it.
Well, I'm really happy to be part of this this art show. David, a long friend of mine, and as we worked on this project together, we had a lot of fun doing it. It took a lot of time, but it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed doing the gnomes, like you know, the colorful gnomes to put into the photographs.
Thank you very much, both David and Michelle. In a minute, we'll chat with Sarisa, but at this point, I really would like to thank, we'll chat with Tajiana about her exhibition. But at this point, I really would like to thank Sarisa for coming and joining us in the gallery for this evening, and to Michelle and David for joining us from their homes and telling us about their upcoming exhibitions and artist talks. And so
just a reminder that our artist talk, sorry to interrupt, Janice, our artist talk will be September 2nd at 7:15.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Sarisa, I'll get the three of you to just say goodbye, and then we'll see you when you have your artist talks.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, Tajiana, it's down to just you and I. Let me see if we are having problems on our Facebook. It looks like, let me see if the videos, you know what, it just, oh, it is, it's going. Okay, my apologies. From one of the feeds, it looks like we weren't actually recording. It said something about having trouble. So that always throws me off when it does that. But then I look at another version and it's working fine. So at this moment, I hope everyone will be able to join us for the artist talk and tours for Sarisa's exhibition and for David and Michelle's exhibition on August 26th and September 2nd. We'll post the links for their exhibition pages to our website, or to the, pardon me, to the Facebook comments, so you'll be able to find out a bit more about each of those exhibitions. So getting to Tajiana's exhibition, after it was installed, Tajiana joined us in the gallery so that we could film her artist talk. And at this moment, I'd like to take time to thank Caitlin Hill, Pomo Art's marketing coordinator. Caitlin's been filming and editing the artist talks we've been doing for the past 17 months and has been instrumental in helping us to stay connected with the arts community during the pandemic. I'd also like to thank Kat Waddell for her help with the preparation for the current exhibitions. She recently finished her Canada Summer Jobs gallery assistant position at Pomo Arts. And now I'm welcoming Natalie Robinson, the new gallery assistant through the Canada Summer Jobs program. She started just over a week ago and was jumped in to an exhibition changeover, and that's quite a shock to the system. I was grateful for her help in installing these exhibitions, and she's helping on the live stream this evening, and will be streaming the video for us. So that'll be nice. She's behind the scenes, but it's still nice to have her. So now on to tonight's artist talk with Tajiana Mirkov for Coastal Spirit. Welcome, Tajiana. You can unmute.
Hello.
I'm so glad that you still have some artwork in your home and your studio that you can put behind you, because I thought I had most of it here.
I also thought you got everything, but I was able to dig out some older work as a background.
Well, thank you so much. So we're going to, in a second, we're going to play the video, and I know you haven't seen the full video, so I hope you enjoy it. It's 24 minutes long, and I'll get you to stick around so that we can have a discussion after and answer any questions that the community might post in the Facebook comments. So if you have any questions or anything you'd like to discuss with Tajiana, be sure and put it in the comments. And you can just, if you are a friend or follower, please be sure and just post in the comments that you were there, so Tajiana can go back and see later that you were here and enjoyed her talk. So at this point, I'm going to ask Natalie to share the screen for the video.
My name is Tajiana Mirkov-Popovicki, and I'm at Pomo Arts, and this is my show, which is called Coastal Spirit. So, why I paint the coastal area of British Columbia? So I've been living here for a few decades now. I moved here from former Yugoslavia, from Serbia, and as every newcomer, I was trying to find a connection with the land. With the people, with everything around me. Because being connected and feeling that you belong to a certain place is a beautiful thing. And it's essential for everybody, I think. And being an artist, I think that I found that connection through art, through looking at the scenery, trying to figure out how to paint it, trying to figure out how those shapes work, how the patterns work together, the colors, the textures, putting everything together into paintings. So, everybody needs to find their own way to belong to a certain place, and for me, it was definitely making these paintings. So I was especially inspired by the coastal area and by the trails, because these places have something spiritual, in my opinion. When you're on a trail and when you're on a beach and when you're surrounded by nature, you feel part of something much bigger than yourself. And for me, it's very important, and I think it's important for most people because there's something healing, something very therapeutic about those experiences. And especially at this time, right now, it's very important for us to feel part of something bigger and not be isolated in our little places. So especially when you're on the trail, for example, surrounded by big trees, or when you're on a beach surrounded by all the rocks and the ocean and everything that happens around you, it's very hard to feel as one individual because you are in something big and you're part of something big. And that's what I would like the visitors to this show to feel when they go through the first part of the exhibition, which is about the trails and being in the forest, and then arriving at the beach, at our Gulf Islands, and then there's an area which is dedicated to the Pacific coast, which is even bigger experience of the endless ocean and the formations of the more of the wilder coast. So this little painting is called Forest Spirit. And there's a good reason for that. I think when you are in certain places, on certain trails, you just never forget the experience of being there. You just feel that something is talking to you. You know, there's this amazing trees and just the sound and how the sunlight goes through the foliage. It just stops you there, and you can't help understanding or realizing that this is something very, very special. So that's the feeling I really wanted to convey with this painting. So this part of the exhibition is dedicated to the amazing forest trails in British Columbia. This particular one is inspired by the Harmony Trail in Whistler, for example, and then the next one is Capilano Canyon. So these are examples of vistas that when you first come to Canada and to this area, this is just unbelievable. It's incredible that something like this exists and we can actually walk here and enjoy this. But more than that, what I wanted to convey here is that spiritual feeling of being in the nature. When you walk on a trail and you arrive at a place where just you feel that you're not alone, even though there's nobody around you. There's really something special about just the configuration, the sounds, the stillness, the just incredible beauty that feels like it's waiting for you to arrive. The same thing with the Capilano Canyon. When you get into that canyon, you know that you're not alone. It's just an incredible feeling being there. There's this powerful nature, and there's a challenge with conveying all that in a piece of canvas, because there's this huge place, and then there's this little canvas where you need to recreate those feelings. So what I do in this approach that I use is using really exaggerated colors, patterns, and lots of textures, because those are all the feelings or the senses that are not just visual. There's actually more than that. You know, I was trying to convey the movement, you know, the shine, the feeling of really being in that place. This piece is called Good Land. For me, the title of this piece and these locations are very special. Those are one of, it belongs to one of the first places that I visited when I came to Canada way back. So this is a Lighthouse Park in West Vancouver. What's really special about this, that this jewel of a place is practically an urban area, and anyone can go there and visit there and just feel the spirit of West Coast without having to travel very long way or hike. So it's right there in our neighborhood, and yet when you're there, you feel like you're in a really this timeless place that has been untouched for a really long time. So very special scene. So these two little pieces started as demos for students. I was trying to teach a specific technique. I was focused on the expressive mark making and expressive brushwork. So I use very large and flat brushes, and I use them similarly as you would use a palette knife. So they began like really wild brush marks all over the place, and then in every next approach I tame the scene and I compose the scene more and more, and I move from pretty abstract first approach towards something more realistic. And if you look at them from close, like if you really get your nose into them, you will see some brush strokes that obviously started as like big movements of the brush, and then in subsequent layer I created forms around them and got more to the more realistic approach. And then the last approach was just creating those little trees and little details and little branches. So these two pieces are really interesting from the point of view of looking at the technique, looking at the colors, looking at how the paint is used and how the brush marks are used. And then at the end, when I was done, I really liked the composition, so I decided to finish them and create finished pieces from them. So these two pieces are inspired by the amazing Gabriola Island, which is close to Nanaimo. It's a very short ferry ride from Nanaimo. And especially on Gabriola, there are these amazing sandstone rocks that I was inspired with, and in this case they required yet another technique. Every painting that you see, it's like a little bit different technique-wise, because I need to accommodate the certain shapes and forms. And here it was especially the sandstones, and I used transitions of color and also the brushwork to show, to give you the feeling of the texture, just amazing organic shapes of these rocks. And they just talk about the weather, the time, the changes, and especially nowadays it's something that we need to monitor and watch and see what's going on, and really care for these places. So you will see these textures of the rocks, also dry pieces of wood and so on. The shapes of the trees, they also talk about the weather and just the environment that these islands go through the time. So it's a very special place. I use really bright colors because the light in these islands is there's just something very special about it. It's very warm. Sometimes it feels like sunshine is shining pink on you, or gold on you, or yellow. And I really wanted to convey that. And then also deep shadows in the forest, because it's a pretty lush area. They are purple. It's just the mix of the colors is just incredible. It's a very a magical place. This is a drum park on Gabriola Island, another amazing place in our Gulf Islands, and I keep saying that because that's what they really are. So for this place, I wanted to show just the stillness. There's so many things that happen in this place, but when you go there, it just feels like the time has stopped. And that's something that I wanted to show by these reflections of the water. Just like a crystalline feeling and the stillness there, and then the magical light that comes through the trees. Again, I used exaggerated colors just to show the really specific quality of light in these places. And it's all kind of composed to show the preciousness. That's the bottom line message. These places are precious and we need to take care of them. So this is a specific location in Drummond Park in Gabriola Island, and I've been there several times, and every time I went there, I was drawn to this particular place, and I was just trying to figure out what is so special about this tiny little place, tiny little beach. And I think it's just a combination of this really ancient tree, which when you're there, you can't help thinking, wow, who else sat here, you know, for eons and enjoyed this place. And it just feels like home. There are those rocks, they feel like the place where you're invited to be. You really feel that you belong there. It's just something really incredibly inviting about this place. It's also protective. You feel like cocooned almost by the branches and then by the rocks on one side. So it's not just their beauty trees that are beautiful on our coast. You know, there are oaks and there are pines. There are all kinds of really wonderful things that you can experience. So this is the real island. So this is coastal arbutus and jack pine. And this particular scene is found in a lighthouse park. But the funny story about this painting was that when I went to this place, I felt like I was surrounded by a family of trees, because you have some really old parts of a jack pine, and also some old branches of arbutus, and then you have new shoots, like young shoots coming up, and they're all kind of intertwined. And I had a feeling that they're kind of supporting each other, you know, like a family. They fit together so beautifully. So I wanted to show that in this painting, that these trees, they do support each other because they have to withstand the weather, they have to withstand the time, and you know, all the ecological changes and everything. And they do, if you go there and if you look at them, you can see they're leaning on each other, and they are a family. So this painting was inspired by Salt Spring Island. And you will notice, compared with the Pacific Coast pieces, that the light is stronger, the light is warmer, the colors are friendlier, it's more inviting, because Gulf Islands they consist of these little magical coves where you can go and you just feel like huddled by the lush environment. So we have a lot of arbutus trees, for example, in these paintings. We have a lot of greener water and shallower water, which is really inviting. And that's how I experienced the Gulf Islands. And by the way, this is the biggest painting in the exhibition. Its size is 48 by 60. It was quite a challenge to paint big. For a long time, I've been painting in much smaller formats, like for example, 20 by 24, 24 by 30. In fact, the biggest painting I've been painting the biggest size I've been painting for a really long time was 30 by 40. And the reason was pretty silly. It was just that was the biggest painting that could fit in my car. And then somebody suggested to me, because I'm painting all these scenes that are big and you know, they need a scale to have the full experience. Somebody said, well, why don't you go bigger? And then I really made a conscious decision one year, just a couple of years ago, and I said, okay, I'm going to paint really big. And I started with 48 by 48 and upwards. Well, some are 40 by 48, that kind of size. And it was a big challenge. It's a big difference between painting 20 by 24 and 48 by 60, but it gives you much more impact, not only as a finished piece, but also while you're working as an artist. So I really recommend to everybody to try different sizes, and you know, it feels different, and it just, you know, extends your experience. So this is Botanical Beach. It's in San Juan Provincial Park. And you will notice that some of these paintings are more colorful than others. Some have more grays, some have more textures. And that's because every scene and every location has a different feeling, and it requires a different approach. So for example, the Botanical Beach in this amazing wild place, it's just windswept. When you're there, you're so much aware of the rocks and of the wind and of the forces of the nature. So I was focused more on achieving certain textures Also those really almost crazy angles, those are all created by amazing forces of nature over, you know, millennia. So I really focused on the grays, the angles, the textures, rather than maybe what you have in other pieces, more like reflections in water and things like that. So this is a pretty unique piece in that sense, that it really is focused on the forces of the nature on our Pacific coast. So coastal patterns, it's one of the pieces that are related to the Pacific coast of BC. The inspiration for this was the patterns of land and water. And especially there's certain tidal area where you have these really, really interesting mix of shapes between rocks and between water. And just this balance between rocks and water is very interesting to me. But this pattern is just itself, it's very visual. It looks, to me, it looks almost like some kind of jewelry or something very, very precious. So I really wanted to achieve this interesting kind of jumping of shapes here and there, and also like little jewel-like spots here and there, especially when the sun hits the coast. And there's so much of this precious stuff washed out by the ocean, and it all sparkles, and it's just so magical. So I wanted to have like really big flat areas to rest your eye, and then this rich kind of jewelry of little rocks, shells, a little algae, whatever the ocean washes out. I think everything the ocean washes out that's natural, it's really, really precious. And it's also another reminder that this needs to be kept clean, and it needs to be kept natural, and it needs to remain a precious jewelry for all of us. So this is Brady's Beach near Banfield on Vancouver Island, and it's part of the Barkley Sound. And it's a very, very special place. It's close to the Banfield Marine Science Center. It's not that accessible because it's very protected area by the Marine Science Center, and in general the whole area is very protected. So that's why I was very careful to really show how it really feels like to be there. And I really wanted to show the magic of that place. If you look at the colors, I really exaggerated those colors, and the shapes and the way they look, they just look like something very precious, which they are. All those colors, it's the experience of being surrounded by rocks and by all the marine life that is there that creates the impression of these colors and the preciousness in your mind when you're there. When you walk along the beach, it may be just sand and rocks and something that floats around, but there's so much important stuff there that needs to be kept clean and protected. And it's just, it just feels like a place where you go there and you remember it for the rest of your life. So that's the feeling I wanted to show with this piece. So these two little pieces were created during my visit to Banfield. This is Pachina Beach, which is one point where the West Coast Trail starts or ends, depends you know which way you go. And this is the famous Brady's Beach and those amazing sea stacks. So this was a study of one of the sea stacks. Sea stack are those rocky structures on the beaches that you see all around Pacific West Coast. And then Pachina Beach is just amazing, huge area, like endless beach. And this is the morning fog that exists there in the mornings. It's very, very particular. The colors, the transition from the gold to purple. It's just a very, as I said before, almost spiritual experience of being on that beach. So both were started plein air. Almost finished plein air, and then when I was back in my studio, I just did the finishing touches and decided to use this one as finished pieces. So this piece is titled the Euclid Coastline, and it's inspired by the amazing Euclid area. I especially was inspired by this scene because it embodies the West Coast because of all the layers. You know that feeling when you're standing on the coastline and you're looking towards the ocean, and there's a piece of land, and then another piece of land, and then another piece of land, and so on, and it just feels like it goes, you know, to eternity. And of course, there's, you know, other lands even further so. But it just gives me the feeling of things never ending. You know, nothing ever ends. You know, this land has been here from times immemorial. You know, inhabited by indigenous people, and before that, who knows what, and after us, who knows what, but it will just keep going and going and going, and it's just so beautiful. So I hope you enjoyed my art talk, and I hope you enjoyed the little stories about each piece. And I hope you can come and visit in person, because one thing is seeing the digital gallery and all the paintings, and I'm really grateful to Pomo Arts for making that available. But to really experience the grandeur of all these scenes and to be surrounded by all this scenery, it would be really great if you can visit in person and, you know, get your nose into the paintings and just walk around and experience all parts of the exhibit. So thank you again.
Hello, Tajiana.
Oh dear, I had no idea I had the ability to talk so much.
You did an amazing job. I sincerely apologize for the technical issues we were having, but let's get on with having a discussion about your work.
It was good recovery. It was very good recovery.
I'm going to keep looking to the side as I'm checking our Facebook comments. We've had quite a few comments, and a lot of lovely comments about your work. Rose Cap asked, who are the artists that you look to? Actually, it was Rose Cap and our gallery assistant, Natalie, that asked, who are some of the artists that you look to for inspiration?
Well, I have to say Group of Seven, because that was my very first inspiration when I came to Canada. I came from Europe, and my eye was trained on the kind of historical European art. And when I came here, first I saw the scenery and I thought, how do you paint this? And then I was introduced to the Group of Seven. It was, oh, that's how. So that was my like first idea of a different visual language than what I was used to before, and that was like my first and original influence. But there's so many local artists and you know, regional and national, and even I found inspiration from artists, from contemporary artists all over the West Coast, and I traveled to Oregon and California, and I found the similarity in the style. So I think there's definitely a regional style. I have to mention my wonderful mentor, late Robert Yen. He was a huge influence in explaining the importance of design in painting. And I mean, there are just endless influences. Thank you for the question, though.
And so we have some other questions. And the first one, this is actually by Natalie as well. And she's asking, what steps do you take prior to putting brush to canvas? Do you work with a lot of smaller sketches before working large scale?
Yes, I do. Especially since I started working on these big pieces, it's very important to work out composition. So I do studies toward the composition. So I do lots of charcoal drawings and drawings with other media to set up the composition. So I will do several of those. If I had time at the location when I was there, I may have some studies that I've done there. So it could be maybe small plein air paintings or drawings, things like that. I definitely have my photographs. So I study all these things, come up with a composition, and I developed the color study as well. Not always though, because I'm by now I have like my go-to color schemes that I use. But often I would do also color study. So there's actually quite a lot of work, done before I actually start working on a big canvas. That's an excellent question.
I actually want to speak to some of those smaller studies that you do. When you were in an exhibition last year here with the Pachina Outdoor Painters, which due to the pandemic and our shutdown ended up being virtual. So I know plein air is a part of your practice. Are these the pieces that when you're working plein air, are they the pieces you're using to as the basis for your larger paintings?
Yes, in most of cases. Sometimes if I'm hiking, to the top of the mountain, maybe I am not, suited appropriately to do a plein air study. But for these coastal scenes, I have most of them started as plein air studies. Sometimes the study is very successful and it ends up being a finished piece, and sometimes it's just a springboard towards developing a larger piece.
Okay. And I'm intrigued by the way you paint water. And from the flat, almost matte look of some of your Lighthouse Park paintings, landscapes, to the intensely vivid reflections in your small coastal patterns pieces, those two that were no, they weren't started as plein air, sorry, they were demos. And the waters of the around the Gulf Islands paintings, they almost sparkle. Can you tell us a little more about how you're approaching these different styles and techniques for reflection, water in particular?
Yeah, I spent quite a lot of time studying methods of painting water and water in different states. And I think one could spend a lifetime just studying water. It's just so amazing. But specifically, I did study reflections for a long time. It's hard to say much about it. It's just a lot of color, lots of different marks, and lots of different stages to develop reflections. So one on the top of the other on top of, I keep going until it looks good.
I have James Kemp commented that he loves your work and that it reminded him of Gabriel Island.
Oh,
and
fantastic. Thank you so much.
Much of it is Gabriel Island. So that was a good guess on that one.
How wonderful.
Yes, you'll have to go and read some of the comments after.
I definitely will, and I'm so grateful to everybody, for spending time here and watching this and leaving comments. I'm just so inspired by that.
Now, I have to say, not everybody was watching online, because we had two guests show up in the gallery while the video was playing. Mary Zakos, who has a community garden beside or near you and your husband in Moody, came, and I think it was her daughter or friend with her, and they came to see the show. They had been
how lovely. Hello, neighbor.
They just left maybe 5 minutes ago.
Okay.
So they were here quite a long time. So your paintings, Tajiana, document our coastal landscapes as they appear today. And you speak with reverence on how these vistas existed for thousands of years. What message would you like your artwork to send about the future of BC's coastal lands?
Mhm. That is an excellent question. You know, people like me who come here from elsewhere, sometimes we're just kind of taken by this beauty, and it's just kind of, you know, just falling in love and just feeling like we're in this wonderland that was always wonderful and it will always be wonderful. But then as time goes by, you realize that, wait a sec, this needs care. It's not just a wonderland that's going to be, you know, that can be taken for granted. It's a pretty sobering thought that, you know, the changes that you know, people inflict and weather inflicts, they can ruin, you know, all this beauty for us. So there's lots of concern that I feel nowadays, and I think I would like to send both of those messages. Yes, this is just an amazing place, and it's such a jewel of, you know, jewel of the world. But we can't take it for granted. We have to you know, worry about it and see what we can do to keep it that way.
Well, I'm glad it's a beautiful way to make that statement, to see your work and know that it puts our current landscapes at this moment in time, and we hope they'll continue to look like that. So I also, another question we have is that what's next for your painting practice? Now, I personally know that for a long time you were painting in the Rockies and mostly mountain vistas. And now you've been moved by the coastal waters and landscapes for the last bit. Will this continue? What's next?
That's an excellent question. I do work in series, but I never really complete a series. I always keep going. So I don't think I will ever, or I'm not planning to ever stop painting the coast, and I'm not planning to stop painting the mountains. So that will all continue. You know, I keep visiting places and getting inspired and painting these you know, amazing scenes. My approach keeps changing. So I am challenging myself with techniques, with different materials, with different scales. So I think the biggest change that will happen will be maybe just some kind of next iteration on the technique. I'm thinking about using collage more. I'm thinking of using other mediums, mixed media, things like that. So, so the challenges are more technique-wise, while my subject matter, I plan it to remain the same.
Okay, that's great. Now, I just wondered if there's anything else you wanted to speak to about the exhibition. You've spent a long time putting it together. You've been working in these large formats since 2019. And, you know, how is it going now with doing all of this, putting all this together? You've been so busy.
I'm just so grateful to see my paintings on those beautiful walls. I mean, that is something that I am always just blown away with, you know, like it's one thing to create them, you know, in my studio, or see them on see one painting on somebody's wall, but to see the entire body of work in this beautiful gallery, that just blows me away. You know, I'm just so thrilled, and I'm planning to enjoy that. And I will hang around, you know, I won't stay away. You'll keep seeing me in the gallery.
Well, you are welcome to be here every day, Tajiana. I also should let people know that the background behind me is not Tajiana's show. It's actually an exhibition from a few years ago, which was a wonderful exhibition as well. But you really should come and see Tajiana's work. There's actually, you've got everything in here from an 8x8 and some, I think, 12 by 14s or something in
Yeah,
that
10
small
10 by 14s,
10
yeah.
by 14s, and up to the large, what, 48 by 60? Was that, no, it's
Yeah, that's the largest one.
the
Yeah, you're
largest
right.
one. And a lot of 48 by 48. So it's definitely something that you can sit down. We've finally been able to put the benches back in the gallery. So we've been enjoying seeing people having an opportunity to sit and look and enjoy the artwork and take their time with it. So that's a nice treat. Would you like to say anything else? I think we've answered our questions. I'm just sort of looking to see if I've got anything in the questions that you haven't already covered. And yeah, I think we've covered everything. Oh, I know, I actually do have one quick little question. You had mentioned that C-Stack study and Pachina Beach study were done plein air and only the finishing touches were added in the studio. Will these two be ones that are selected to go into a larger format, or will they stay small?
That's a very good question, because I do use studies, and sometimes even when I have a bigger piece, a couple of years later, I just feel I'm not done with it, and I may do another version. So there are quite a few of my paintings that have 2 or 3 versions. So it's very possible that those may go big one day.
Yeah. Well, when I was in your studio, I believe I saw some watercolor studies as well, that you had sort of grouped quite a bunch of them on the wall, just I guess to keep them in your visual space so you didn't forget about them.
Yeah, so those are mostly the color studies and trying to see, how colors work against each other. So you have a sharp eye, Janice.
Okay, Natalie's just messaged me that I missed a question in Facebook about, here, let me just check what she said. There's a question about underpainting in the Facebook chat. Okay, here it is. It's from Sandy Bond, and it says, do you lean towards certain colors for underpainting? How do you set up for a composition, and what elements do you look toward? I can repeat those if you want to answer them one at a time.
Well, I love that question because I love underpainting. That's my favorite part of, of creating a piece. When I work on very small paintings, it's usually one color for the entire piece. And I usually use earthy reds, yellows, oranges, things like that. When I work on a very big piece, I actually may create different colors in different areas. So for example, where I'm going to have a forest with a shadow, I will use a purple underpainting. Under the water, I'll use green. I actually, if you go to my Instagram, I actually have quite a few little clips, and there's some where I'm specifically working on underpaintings. So I do try to think ahead and try to think about what's going to go on the top and then pick the colors that way. That's excellent question.
Thank you very much for that. So at this point, I don't see any more questions. Did you want to say anything to the folks that came to watch? And
I just want to thank everybody, for spending this time with us. I mean, it's so wonderful, to see, lots of familiar names, and those that are not familiar, they're becoming new friends. So that's also wonderful. So just thank you all, and, for your support of the arts and of Port Moody Art Center, and just for being here with us.
Well, thank you very much, Tajiana. I'm so happy to have you here. And I have to appreciate the flexibility and patience of all our artists during this last year and a half, because we've got, our poor artists have gone through some pretty strange experiences. And although we're able to have our live exhibitions now, it's just I wish we could still have our in-person opening receptions, but you know, we hope to do that again at some point in the fall. We'll just have to see how things go. So in the meantime, thanks so much, Tajiana. Stay on for a second after, and you know, we can chat a little bit. And I'll thank you to everyone who came out tonight, and please join us again next Thursday for Cerisa Fitzjames Artist Talk. Cerisa is our 2020-2021 ceramic artist in residence, and they'll be talking about the exhibition that was a year in the making. Thank you very much, and we'll see you all next week. Well, and I will shut down now. Thanks, bye.